everything is about right now is about immediate gratification. Kids don't have that patience anymore. Some of them lack that grit to really grind and get to where they aspire to be. There's no app for getting better. You just want to push a button and be better, and it doesn't work like that.
This episode is brought to you by West Coast Beach, a year-round beach volleyball club on the west side of Los Angeles in Santa Monica, California. At West Coast Beach, we aim to get 1% better every day, both on and off the court. You can find more info about us at westcoastvbc.com and on Instagram with handle @westcoastvbc. All right, I'm here with Mary Jo Deutschman. Thank you so much for being here, Mary Jo. Mary Jo is a friend of mine, a colleague. She spent 32 seasons as the Crossroads volleyball coach, and she's still there. She's the co-founder of the Little Dolphins by the Sea, and a preschool and transitional kindergarten in the Pacific Palisades. And I'm going to read a quote that I got off your website because I was inspired by it to start this. From an early age, I taught, coached, tutored, and worked with people of all ages, working to inspire them to be their best self in the classroom, on a court, and as a person. Absolutely love that. Mary Jo, thank you so much for being here.
Not a problem. I'm excited. Love being here.
Yes. Okay, let's get right into it. What does living an inspired life mean to you?
Living an inspired life. Well, I hope I live an inspired life. And I think it means, for me, it means living within myself with gratitude and maintaining perspective each and every day I wake up. It's like being true to yourself while you're still empathetic to others, which is incredibly important to me. And it's like knowing yourself, knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, knowing that your greatest strength is probably also your greatest weakness, and knowing how you can use that to better yourself. It's a combination of knowing, when Oliver was 5, my son, he had a hard time sleeping because he couldn't understand what would make his heart happy. And he was just so determined to find out what would make his heart happy. And I thought, wow, that's really how you can be settled within yourself, is when you know what makes your heart happy. And as an adult, it would make me think about what made my heart happy. But how do you explain that to a 5-year-old? And he one day came to me so inspired and so had this look on his face, and he said, "Mom, I know how your heart can be happy." And I said, "How's that?" And he's 5. He said, "It's your attitude and your soul."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Huh?" He said, "Your attitude is what everyone else thinks about you, and your soul is what you think of yourself. And if they're not the same thing, your heart will never be happy." He's 5. So I thought about it, and I thought, we talked a lot about attitude, especially as an athlete, telling him that his attitude is what represented him, and his soul was really what was in him. And he came up with the concept that if they weren't the same thing, you'd never be happy. And I think he's right. It's a matter of what you think of yourself, the belief you have in yourself, combined with the people around you, are really what lead you to lead an inspired life. I don't know if that makes sense, but
that absolutely makes sense.
It makes sense, to think that a 5-year-old simplified it so much. And it's very funny because he couldn't sleep for like a year before that. Next day, out cold for the rest of his life. So it was all good.
What a cool realization.
And it's, I think I'm a big proponent of fun. And I know you know that about me. And fun to me isn't laughing and playing and being silly. It's really enjoying the process. It's like putting 100% of the effort into something, engaging, being a part of something, and enjoying that process. I think John Wooden in his pyramid called it enthusiasm. And it's hopefully something that spreads to other people. And it's being passionate. And it's really about, it's like when I was in school, I went to Princeton, where most people think of it as a pressure cooker. And for me, people say, "How'd you like Princeton?" I'm like, "Oh, it was so fun." And everyone's like, "Fun?" And I was like, I wasn't a partier. I wasn't a wild kid. I was a complete solid student athlete, but it was fun because I was so engaged, so invested. I felt so good about myself. I thought I was learning. I was growing. I was meeting people from all over. It was fun. And my father said to me, when I first started, he said to me, "Take the classes that you'll get up at 8 a.m. for. Take what inspires you. Take what motivates you, and just go for it." And so for me, that was fun. I was engaged, I was active, I was proactive, I was happy. And that, to me, that's what I mean by fun. So fun is a huge part of what I do. The other thing I think for me in an inspired life is that early on, my father taught me to be a sharer, not a giver.
Mm.
And he'd say, be a sharer, not a giver. And at first I was like, well, I was young, and I'd say, what's the difference between a giver and a sharer? You say, well, when you're a giver, you can give and walk away. But when you share, you give of yourself. And if you give of yourself, you invest, and that is far more satisfying. And so to me, on any level, sharing is really, it's giving of myself, being a part of something, investing in it. And whether it's my family, my players, an organization, it doesn't matter. If I share of myself, I'm part of it. It's so satisfying. It's fun. It's passion. You stay connected. And so for me, I've always tried to be a sharer, and that's really part of living an inspired life.
Wow, that is absolutely beautiful. I love that. This project is for the youth athlete, inspiring the youth athlete. So talk to me about practice. What does having an inspired practice mean to you?
Inspired practice is, to me, is one where everyone is engaged, everyone is working to be their best self, and yet at the same time, kind of being their best self, working with the other people to support them to make them their best selves. If everyone's engaged on the same page with a common goal, working together to achieve it, and enjoying that process at the same time, that's an inspired practice. You're trying to lay a foundation for what you're trying to do, which is be successful towards winning games, having a goal, setting that goal and trying to achieve it. And I've always said, if you can inspire people to be their best self on and off the court, you're going to be successful. It's going to happen for you. And I think it's really about the process more than the end game. I think, it's also, when I hire my assistants, I always ask them, I always say, name me every teacher you've ever had. And they name like 3 or 4 that are important. And then I'm like, okay, name me every coach. And they rattle off a whole list of coaches. And they go, oh, he was terrible. Oh, he was great. Oh, he was great. And I say to them, look, you remember every coach you ever had. Now that's you. So you're going to have an impact. You can have a positive or a negative impact. You make that choice. So it's really about having an inspired practice and starting with the coach, inspiring your players. And then at the same time, allowing yourself to be inspired by your players. And if it's a give and take, I think the practice will be an inspired practice.
And building on that, what's the flip side of that? What about an uninspired practice? Because I know it does happen often. And what does that look like? And what are some tools that you can offer to flip that in the moment to get back to an inspired practice?
I think an uninspired practice is one where people are just disengaged. They're not focused on what they're doing. They're not focused on themselves, their teammates, on the task at hand. It's really a loss of focus.
Mm.
And I think you have to bring back that focus. Sometimes you have to stop the practice, and depending on your style of coaching, redirect them, engage them back. And how you can do that is through maybe throwing in a drill is high energy, that is always usually successful, and flipping a switch and getting them to go back into it. Or if one person is not engaged or struggling and attitude is kind of in the dumpster, it's really engaging them and bringing them back, building them up, to re-engage them, get their teammates to support them. And then as everyone starts feeling better about themselves, better about what they're doing, they'll become more engaged. And it's really about telling them that practice isn't about that day. It's not about that moment. It's really about working towards a goal. And it's not always going to be perfect. It's like watching a baseball player strike out. You're not always going to hit a home run. You're not always going to, hit 600. It's just, you have to just really know yourself and know that one thing that you can do better, try and take that. If you're not swinging well, hey, dig some balls. If you get some aces, pass a ball, do something else. And that confidence will hopefully then carry over into what you're struggling with.
That's awesome. How about an inspired game? And I'd really like you to put yourself into an athlete's mindset instead of a coach mindset, and try to feel what it's like. Because when, just think back when you were competing and those inspired games that you've had, and you've actually told me about some of them before. So I was wondering if you could maybe get into that.
Yeah, inspired game is when you're just in the flow and you're just you're just working so hard and you're so focused and so concentrated that nothing else matters. You don't hear anyone else around you. You're just in, and you just know, and you have that confidence that you know that every pass is going to be perfect, every set, every swing. You just feel it, and you feel that, and you feel that all that work that you've done is paying off, that you don't even have to think about it. It's muscle memory. It's attitude memory. It's just, it's you going forward and being, and knowing that you are in control. And volleyball is hard because you aren't in control. I mean, so
Right.
much has to be created for you. You can't create for yourself. So you have to be that positive person, inspiring the people around you to also support you, because you're reliant upon them. So when you're in it and you're in that flow and you're in that inspired game, when you just really feel like you can do no wrong and you want the ball, you aggressively engage, you aggressively invite the ball to come to you. You're hoping it comes to you, not wishing it out. You're not wishing that they serve someone else. You're aggressively wanting it. And that's really what the inspired game is. It's kind of, I mean, it's kind of a weird way to say it, but aggressively wanting it because you have the confidence, you have the practice behind you, you have the confidence of your teammates, the confidence of your coach, and you just know that you can do it.
Well, let's build on that, because I feel like that's a really important part of any athlete's journey, is to find that flow or find that feeling of being in the zone or locked in. So
Right.
can you identify when you're in that moment, or does it just kind of just come and go?
I think flow to me, no, I think you can identify it. Flow is really about confidence to me. It's
Mm,
about feeling it. It's about engaging. And when you're not in it, sometimes you just need to relax. Find something that's going to bring that back to you. Because all athletes, if you're in a game and you're playing, no matter what level, someone has confidence in you that you're playing. Whether it's you, your coach, your teammates, someone out there has confidence. Could even be your parents, falsely, but they have confidence in you that you could do it. And so sometimes you have to sit back. And I know for me, like, I know as I was in my playing days and I'd be frustrated and not playing as well as I want, then I'd look around and I'd think, oh my God, I'm playing a game I love. I'm doing something I love. How lucky am I to have this opportunity, to start on a team that's doing well, or to participate and to do, it's like, almost like I say to my kids when I coach, like, what do you bring to the table? You might not be a starter. Maybe you bring great energy off the bench. Maybe you bring leadership. What you have to sit back and think, hey, what do I bring? What do they need from me right now? And when you realize that, then maybe your swing is off, so you're not bringing your swing. Maybe you bring that energy, that enthusiasm. What's going to bring you back into that confidence and that flow? And that's part of it.
I like that. And what comes to mind for me, and I don't have this written down, it's just coming to me right now, is when I'm not in the flow and I'm uninspired maybe, or I'm struggling, which happens a lot.
Right.
You're struggling. Sometimes I remember really high quality reps that I've taken in practice. Like there's like actually a couple that I can remember through my whole career right now, the rep that felt really good. And so sometimes what I'll do in the game is I'll try my best to remember the feeling of that rep that I took that felt so good. And
You're talking about the purity of something. When you do something so effortlessly, so purely, and we've
right,
all had it. It's like a golf ball so purely, knowing, oh my God, I can do it. Or swing that's just so pure.
right.
And knowing you can, it's confidence. And it's owning it. It's really about owning it. And it's also knowing that all you can control is yourself. So how do you own this moment? And you can either let it go out the window or you can try and bring it back. And
Yeah.
it's like life. It's all about choices. What
So,
do you
so
do in that?
that feel, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, what do you choose to do in that moment? Do you just let yourself slide, or do you choose to bring yourself back? It's really about choices.
Love that. Love
Choices,
that.
and I think all of life and anything you do is all about perspective and how you look at it. I mean, that's a big part of who I am. It's how you, and it's your choice. How do you choose to look? Do you choose to look at it with gratitude? Do you choose to look at it like it's someone else's fault? Do you choose to look at that you own it, that you're responsible for it, that you control yourself? How do you choose to look? What's your perspective? I think that's really important.
Love that. Love that. I just want to stay on that for 1 second with the idea of being in the zone. Is it possible to bank that feeling, let's say in practice? Let's say you're doing great in practice.
I think you have to actually identify it for some kids, though.
Right,
Some
right.
kids get it. I think it's like anything. Some people get it, some people don't. But I think if you identify it, especially when people are starting to learn a game, when they do something well and they do it fluidly, and you identify it and say, wow, did you feel that? And they're like, yeah, I did. Okay, remember that feeling, identify that feeling, bank it in your memory, because that's what you're going for. So they have something to go back. It's that foundation, and that's what practice is all about. So flow in practice is as important as flow in a game.
I think it's really, sorry, I was just gonna say, I think it's really important as coaches to remind players when they are in the flow. Hey, like, you're locked in, kid. Like, stay locked in.
You identify it totally.
Yeah.
And feed it. If you have the hitters tell your setter, set them the ball. Feed them.
Right.
And give them that, because flow is also about confidence, because it's knowing you can make it. It's knowing you wanting the ball, knowing if they serve to you, you're going to do a perfect pass, knowing and just having that confidence. So if someone else has confidence in you also, a coach, teammates, whatever, it's going to even get you more in the flow.
Cool. I love that. Let's move on to emotion. What are the differences and similarities in emotion from both an inspired practice and an inspired game?
Emotions. What are the emotions? I think it's a feeling of satisfaction. I think it's confidence, satisfaction, and it's knowing, like I said, knowing you can do it. And the emotion isn't, because you don't want to be so emotional, because when you're so emotional, you get outside yourself. But if it's from within, and it's a confidence and a satisfaction and feeling good about yourself, that's really the emotion you want to attain. And so it's also the more satisfied and the more confidence you have and the better you feel, it's like the more proactive you are also. The more you'll go out there and get it, the more you'll advocate for yourself and even others. And it's just really about, for me, it's really about satisfaction and confidence and feeling good about oneself. That's such a big part of being inspired, I think. At least for me, it is.
Beautiful. How does the inspired feeling transcend one's sport or discipline and carry over to their personal and daily life?
Well, come on, we've all seen it. We've had kids that play for us who maybe aren't being successful in school or not being successful socially, and yet they're successful on the court. And you identify that, and you identify what they have to offer. Hopefully that confidence, goes somewhere else. And it's like, well, I'm not very good at this. I'm not very good at that. But you're good at this. And you could, with a little work and a little structure, be successful over here. And it's like, honestly, if a kid feels good about themselves, or a player or an adult, it's amazing what you can do, not only for yourself, but for others. If you don't feel good about yourself, you can't do a lot for others either. If that makes sense.
That does make sense. Absolutely.
You need to feel good about yourself, and you are, it's wanting to do something for others and wanting to take the pain and turn that into something positive. Emotion is, I think I'm not someone, I have emotion, I can be emotional, but I think it's more about taking that emotion and channeling it into something good for myself and for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say that I think it's incredibly important to learn how to manage your emotions from a young age, because managing, because we're all emotional and we're human beings, and if we can manage our emotions in a really constructive, productive way, then we can use them to our advantage.
Well, I think you're right. Productive is the most important thing. And it's also going back to attitude. It's like, as a little child, I would take my kids and we'd watch baseball games and we watch basketball. And when someone had a bad attitude or acted out there so emotionally, I would point out to them, they might be an amazing individual, lovely, but what we see is that emotion, which comes off as attitude. And that's where Oliver got your attitude is what everyone else thinks about you. And so it's really about taking those emotions and realizing how to use them, how they manifest within you and how they represent you, and using them for good rather than for show or for bad, or even if it's your super happy and super emotional, sometimes that can come off as arrogance.
Right.
It's just, it's not that you want to always be aware, but you have to have some sort of self-awareness.
Love that. Love that. Self-awareness. Let's move on to mindset. Can you talk a little bit about mindset and what the mindset looks like, or some of the self-talk that comes up pre, during, and post trainings and games?
The mindset. Yeah, I think again, when you walk in a gym and you're part of a team, especially as part of a team, you should know what you bring to that team
Mm,
and that you are a valuable part. What do you bring? And whether it's you're the biggest kill leader, you're the best player, whether it's you are the most inspirational as far as your work ethic and practice, or everyone brings some. Players 1 through 12 all bring something different, and you should feel good about what it is you bring to the team. You might aspire to bring other things eventually, but what do you bring at that moment? And make sure that you do that one thing at that moment, and that part is necessary as being part of the team, and that you are important. Every player is important, and you need to know that. So that is your mindset: is here's what I bring, and I've got to do it to the best of my ability. And in the process, I'm going to take from others and what they bring, hopefully learn and expand what I bring to this team.
that's great. Building on that, self-talk, I think, is extremely important in all sports, but specifically in volleyball or in sports that have a lot of stoppage time, right? And that stoppage time adds up, right? And
And
so
it's got to be positive self-talk. Got to be positive self-talk.
can you give me some examples of that positive self-talk?
I think, we talk a lot in timeouts about like wanting the ball, wanting it, like I was saying before, aggressively wanting to be a participant and wanting to play. And to do that, you have to say to yourself, I am good. I can do this. I can pass this ball. I can swing. My team needs me to be positive and be proactive for myself. And it's really all about positive. You can't let when the negative thoughts pop in, which they always do, you shank a ball and you're like, oh my God, please don't serve me. Please don't serve me. When that happens, one, you're going to get served. And two, you just need to switch your mindset to being, the reason I'm on this team, the reason I'm a libero, the reason I'm a DS, the reason I'm in right now is because my coaches have confidence in me. My teammates have confidence in me. I can do this. And it's not, even if you don't have confidence in yourself, look around. There's a reason you're on the floor. You're on that floor because you are good. You can do this. You got to go back to that feeling of that sweet spot and saying, I can do this. I can do this. And I think as coaches, we have to talk about self-talk. We have to talk about
Right.
having that mindset of being positive and not beating yourself up and not letting the negative thoughts creep in, which they're going to. And once they do, how do you get them out? How do you say, oh my God, I've hit 3 balls in a row out. I've gotten roofed 3 times. I can't swing anymore. This block is too big. It's like, okay, how can I be creative? And I think, we talk sometimes in my practice about creative mindset. And that's like, when you're not doing one thing well, how can you creatively get yourself out of this? What is it? And everyone is different. Everyone is different. It can be you're an outside hitter and you're off, and then you go in the back row and you get 3 great digs, and you're like, hey, I can do this. Or you go back and you get an ace, or you hit a jump serve and it's the same swing that you're taking outside. How do you transfer that? How do you transfer that confidence into, and you do it by your own mind, by leading yourself and saying, believing in yourself. And I think
Yeah.
some kids, I think it's interesting because some kids need to take those tools off the court too. It's just as important off the court.
I was just going to say, one of my biggest mentors, other than you, is Coach Sue Enquist from UCLA. And she would talk about weak voice and strong voice, and how that when you're finished with competition and you're done with your sport, whether you won or lost, it's important to remember how to transform weak voice into strong voice instantaneously. And
Yes.
and I would completely agree with you that one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my life with sports, just being an athlete and a coach and being a part of sports, is learning how to do that very quickly when you're outside of a sport, when you're in daily life, when you're in just, random situations that might not be so good. You can transform weak voice to strong voice.
Yeah. 100%. And
Yeah.
I think part of it is always, I mean, I always tell my kids, I tell my players, always consider the source. Who is telling
Mm,
you, consider the source. Considering the source, if someone is telling you you're not good, you're not doing well, whatever, look at them. If it's someone you admire, someone you respect, maybe you should think about it.
I love
But,
that.
but if it's someone who is a hothead, someone who you don't respect so much or you don't always agree with, or consider the source and, and really listen to those voices of those who you respect and include yourself within that. You respect yourself, you have confidence in yourself, listen to yourself, but also listen to those around you who are people you respect, you admire, you like. The ones that you don't, you know what? Like I always say, consider the source. It's maybe not that important.
That's great. That's a perfect segue into sources. Where do you get inspiration from?
Where do coaching or life wise?
Either one,
Well,
both.
they're kind of the same. They're one and the same. I think it comes from my parents. It comes who led very, very inspired lives, very inspired lives. And it comes from my children and it comes from my players. It comes from everyone around me. I mean, I think it was led off by my parents. I grew up in a family. I think, I had two parents who were both very sick. My mom had MS. She was a D1 two-sport athlete and was hit with MS when she was 26. Didn't have me till she was 40.
Wow.
When I was in eighth grade, my father was diagnosed with a form of pancreatic cancer. So they both had lots of challenges. They were the most positive, proactive, inspired, amazing individuals that I could ever imagine having. So the role models I had were just inspired people who literally woke up. My father woke up. I mean, I think about this now within this coronavirus. When he was at his sickest, it didn't matter. He'd wake up every day, take a shower, and get dressed like he was going to work. He had no chance of going to work. But he felt like the only way he was going to be productive that day, whether it was just reaching out to a friend or was he had to feel like he was going to be a productive member of society. And,
Wow.
my friends are like, yeah, I've been in my sweats all day now. I don't go anywhere. And I get up every day. I get dressed, take a shower like I'm going to be productive. And I know I got that from my dad, and it was inspiring to me. My mom, same thing. She was Arthur Ashe's hitting partner at UCLA. She was
Cool.
just a very physical. She's a great athlete, and then to have all your physicality taken away from you really changes, who you are. But it didn't change who she was at all because she was this very loving, giving, fun-loving, fun individual, and she kept her spirit the whole time.
What
So
are their names, your parents?
my parents' names were Frank and Dorothy Grisanti, and they were a combination, for those of people who are old enough to remember, combination of Lucy and Ricky Ricardo and Ozzy and Harriet.
I love it. I love it. That's so
Yeah,
awesome.
they were both doers and inspiring, and they inspired me to be my best self.
Mm,
Never, there was never a doubt in their mind about me. They would always say, follow your passion. They supported me. They were way ahead of their time. My parents came to every game I ever played. My father came to every game I ever played. He was running big corporations, and he made time to come to all my games, all my home games, which nowadays is common. But, in the 70s, that was not common. He was always the only dad there,
wow.
and made a big impact on me. And what was so amazing is I had many times from eighth grade till I was 23 when he passed away, where he would be in the hospital. They would call me. They'd say, come say goodbye. He won't make it till morning. And when you're like 14 years old, that's like a tough thing. And you walk in, there's all these doctors sitting around, and you're like, you want to say something profound and intelligent, and you can't think of one thing to say. And my father, when I was talking to him about it once, he said to me, he said, you know what? You don't have to say one damn thing.
Mm,
I already know what you're thinking. He goes, you have it in your heart. You have it in your soul. And he goes, I've raised you right. And that confidence he gave me was just unbridled. It
wow.
was like, I didn't have to feel like I had to impress anyone. I just had to be myself. And I knew my parents were very proud of me just being me. So there was no pressure. If I won a match, if I won a game, it was like, yeah, they were happy, but I just knew they were proud of me anyway. And that to me was very inspiring.
Wow.
And I know was incredibly blessed, incredibly blessed. And
Beautiful.
I so
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
my players, my children, and now that my parents are gone, my kids inspire me every day. And I learn, and they inspire me by being these just good quality human beings. And that's what I hope to raise. And when I see that I've done that, and I see their actions, and I see their attitudes, and I see the things they do and their own personal happiness, it's inspiring and it's gratifying. And I take that and I look at my players and I invest in them. And that's why I learned from my parents. If you invest in the people you love, what you get back is just, 100-fold. And you look at them as people I look at my players, I want to see them grow on and off the court. And I do, and I learn from them. I'm inspired by them. They're so bright and so knowledgeable. When you see them be successful on or off the court, you have a part of that. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, I don't have this written down, but it's coming to mind right now. Building on sources of inspiration other than your family and your players, I feel like you and I both kind of try to get inspired first on our own before we start the day, and whether we like take a little quiet time or just we just get into that. We make an intention for ourselves first. And then what happens is throughout the day, we kind of seek that in others. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I mean, I wake up every day and I truly am inspired. I'm thankful to have that day. I'm thankful to be healthy. I'm just thankful to have a day where I'm in control of my day. And there are things that I'm not in control of, but I can control how I participate in that. So I am in control and I'm inspired by that. And I think part of it is, I mean, I know it sounds arrogant in some ways, but I'm very happy with myself. I'm very content. I'm not content to stay the way I am. No, I'm content to keep reaching, keep being inspired, keep going. And that makes me content, meaning happy. And when you do that and you inspire yourself and it's not you inspire yourself, you feel inspired, going out and hopefully touching other people and having an impact, even if you're just at the market and telling someone, hey, how's your day? How's it going?
Right.
Have fun, whatever. Builds on your own inspiration, knowing you can inspire other people. So I think when I say my parents, my kids, they inspire my players in a different way. I think my parents were my biggest inspiration because they really shaped who I am. And so that's why I look at them as my biggest inspirations. But you're right. I think if you wake up and feel inspired and you look at your day, it's like, this is my day. How cool is that?
Right.
How cool is that? No one can take that away from me. I wake up with a smile and no one can take that away from me. If someone pisses me off, I just think to myself, thank God I don't have to live with them. It's like, thank God they're who they are and I'm who I am. Thank God I'm me,
For sure. And just last thing on that, I just want to build on, because of the times that we're in right now, the coronavirus, the quarantine, what advice can you give to the player that just got their sport taken away, their season just got ended, and they just feel uninspired right now? How can you be a source to them right now?
I think they should think about when they were playing, what was that sport giving to them? What was that experience giving to them? What were they getting out of it? What were they putting into it and then getting out of it? If they, and I think if they want to continue playing that sport, or whether it's for pleasure, whether for its competitiveness, what were they putting in and what were they getting out? And really look at it. Why is it such a void in their life? And that's kind of a good thing. It's perspective. It's a good thing. Thank God you have something that you're passionate about, that you love to do, that when it is taken away, you're bummed. And you obviously put a lot of time and effort into it to feel that way. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So how do you now take that and either channel it in let's say you're a boys volleyball player. There's not a lot of opportunities after high school for the majority of players. There are for
Sure.
some, but there's not like for girls. There are not as many opportunities. And I have 5 seniors who none of whom are going to go on to play. They'll play on the beach for pleasure. They might play tournaments, but not at a super high level. And I would say to them, what did you get out of being on a team? What were the things you got out of that? What did you put in what did you give of yourself that got you the return that's now making you miss that? That's how you want to live your life. You want to take all those things and realize that if you give of yourself, and no matter what endeavor it is, that you're getting something back, that if they took it away, you're going to miss it.
Right.
Because if you don't miss it, you probably shouldn't have been doing it in the first place.
That's awesome.
And continue to work hard, because that's what made you feel good about it. You were a part of something, and being a part of something makes you feel good. Find something to be a part of. If you're a leader, you're always going to find a way to lead. If you're someone who likes to kind of follow and just be a part of the group, that's great too. But you had something to offer, because you obviously offered something, because you got something back. What is that? How do you channel that? That's really what it's about. I mean, you can work out, you can do all those things. There's lots of great workouts, and all those things are important too. But I think at this time, it's really the mental aspect that's even more important. Because if you're a kid who's going to be dedicated and work out, you're going to do it all through the coronavirus too. But what's the mental aspect? What is it? What does it bring? What did it bring to you? And you should miss it. You should be bummed, because you should have put that much effort into it. That when they took it away, you're devastated. I mean,
Yeah.
I look at Oliver when he was the kid who, when practice was canceled, was so devastated. He would be like in his room sobbing, and then outside playing against the wall. He wanted, don't take that away from me. That's my game. That's my thing.
Shout out to Oliver. We love you, man.
Talk about passion. He's got the passion.
Yes. Awesome. That's great. Let's move to part 2. These are the popcorn style questions and answers. And let's see how it goes. How do you define success, and what does being successful mean to you?
I think success is having your heart be happy. It's feeling good about yourself and what you're doing and accomplishing for yourself and for those around you. It's being successful is it's being engaged. It's knowing that what you're doing is important to you, and hopefully in turn important to others, and having an impact, and not just, it's really feeling good about yourself. Being successful to me means feeling good about yourself, being able to advocate for yourself, being able to be proactive, being able to, because if you are all those things within yourself, the impact you're going to have on others is going to be positive, and that's successful.
Love it. How do you consider the idea of failure?
I don't. Failure is not a word I use. Failure is really a tool for being successful. If there are mistakes or missteps, but if you learn from them and are proactive and rectify them, there's no idea of failure. I mean, everyone's going to screw up at a time, but I make a choice not to think of it as failure. I make a choice to think of it as, I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to be inspired by this. I'm going to work harder. And it's really, it's a way of, people say, oh, I failed at this. It's like, no, you don't. You don't fail at it. You're going to learn from it. Maybe you weren't successful at it, but that's only going to inspire you to want to be more successful. If you let it get you, not so good. But if you let it inspire you to keep working hard, don't think of it as a tool. It's like, it's another tool in your toolbox. Wow, I screwed this up. All right, now I'm going to use that to get here. So I'll just pull that tool right out. So it's really a tool for success rather than being a failure.
That's great. What are the most successful habits that you do on a consistent basis?
I think I approach each day like a new adventure. One I can go after and just like make my own, and just really be inspired for myself. It's like I say, it's all about attitude and perspective and how you look at it. And I think successful habits for me are just looking at things in a positive way and just knowing that my impact on others is going to be positive because that's a choice I'm making. And if you wake up every day thinking, how can I have a happy day? How can I have a fun? I mean, I look at it and say, how can I have a fun day? And not everything is fun, but if I come away feeling like I had a positive impact or I did something well, or I accomplished something, that's fun. That's good. You know, end
I
of
feel
story.
like I feel like you approach every day like you're going into a theme park today. You're like, all right, what do I get to do?
It's all perspective. It's all how you look at it. I look at it like it's my day and it's my joy, you know, and I look back to my parents who could have looked at every day, like this day sucks. I feel terrible. I'm sick. Instead, they looked at it like, wow, I have another day I get to live. This is pretty cool. How can I make everyone else's day as joyous as mine? And that's a good way to do it. And, as far as it pertains to sport, I'm lucky to play it. I remember so specifically a day at the beach where I was playing with Linda Hanley, Gene Meltzer, Gene Goldsmith, and Allison Gardner, all who played on the tour. And we were playing. Gene and Linda were still actively playing. I'd had 2 kids. I'd had back surgery. I'd had hip surgery. I was old, whatever. And they were nice enough to still let me play with them. And I was struggling that day. And then I looked around. It was a beautiful day. And I thought, oh my God, how lucky am I? I have 3 amazing friends. I'm getting to play a sport I love on a gorgeous day. Okay, I can't pass for whatever. But you know what? I can. I know I can. And I turned it around in that moment, just realizing how lucky and how grateful I was to be in the situation I was in. And that's really the habits you need to have a solid day, you know?
That's great. What's the most important lesson that has helped shape who you are today?
The most important lesson. Um, I think to be open and accepting and to
Mm,
realize that not everyone thinks the same, not everyone goes about things the same, and to have respect for that. And I was taught that very specific example. I know you've heard this story, but my father was an Italian immigrant, self-made man, conservative, um, very socially accepting, but fiscally very responsible. So kind of, I don't know how you would describe it, but and he at the time was head of the school, which was St. Augustine's School, in which um, the principal had a heart attack and died. And it was a parochial school, meaning a religious Episcopalian school. So he was head of the vestry of the church and head of the school board. It was his job to find an educator to take over the school. He went out and found Paul Cummins, who is the head of Crossroads, who started the founder of Crossroads School. There were the 2 most different men you'd ever seen. I was 10 years old. He hires Paul. Paul was Jewish. He was a renegade. He was a rebel. He was a progressive thinker. The school was a conservative Episcopalian religious school. My dad was a Republican. It was the 2 most different personalities you could think of. And I remember him saying to me, there's so many different ways to educate. There's so many different types of people. He's brilliant in his own way. Times are changing. We need to go with this. And this people who were part of the school originally wanted to crucify my dad. They thought it was wrong. And he just held fast to his belief that Paul was the man to do it. He believed in him. He backed him, supported him. They were completely different people. And he really showed me that, you know what? You have to have an open mind. You have to be open to all different types of thought. That diversity isn't just about race, culture, religious. It's also about thinking and different mindsets. And you need to be open to that. You need to be accepting because you can always learn. And my dad learned from Paul. Paul learned from my dad. Thus ensued Crossroads, which we know has been a success. And it really showed me that, you stick to your guns, but you need to be open and you need to be inclusive and you need to think and you need to be empathetic. All those things went into their relationship, and I watched it develop it was living right in front of me. had such a huge impact on me
Mm.
that I think it's really the person I am. There was no judgment. It was just respect. And I look in the world today and the way it is, so much of that is missing, and it makes me very sad.
Well, that's why we're doing this project right now, so that we can start to plant more seeds of that inspiration and that positive thinking and the open mindsets. We're doing that with this right now.
It's being open.
Yeah, I love it. Well, that's a perfect segue to this question. How important is the idea of having impact to you?
Really important. It's really important to me. Like I say, my parents had such an impact, such a positive impact on me. Um, I think one of the reasons I coach is I had a coach in college who just was determined to have a negative impact. And I kept saying to myself, wow, I could do such a much better job. But that was her choice. And, it's like when I talk to my assistants and say, who are your coaches? I know as a coach, you have an impact. I see it when my players come back to me, introduce me to their fiancés or to their children, or I get invited to their wedding, or I just wrote a letter for someone who's going off to medical school, and they tell me things that they remember that I said to them, or awards that I gave them through the process, and things I said about them. I had one quote, a grade report I wrote about them, and I was like, what? But you realize what an impact you have, and hopefully it's a positive impact. And it's important to me, because the people who had impact on me are my role models, and the chance to be a role model, the chance to be a mentor is just, not everyone has that opportunity.
Right.
And I have
Right.
the opportunity every season, with 14 new kids, or JV with, 40 new kids. And that's important to me.
Yeah, I know. And I love that. What's the biggest challenge you see for your athletes?
Hmm. Right now in this environment,
Yeah.
hmm. You know, I think kids now, I see it now. I run a preschool and I work with high schoolers. So I see the age range. Everything is about right now is about immediate gratification. Kids don't have that patience anymore.
Right.
Some of them lack that grit to really grind and get to where they aspire to be. There's no app for getting better. You just want to push a button and be better. And it doesn't work like that. And so the challenge for them is to have that patience, to have that grit, to understand that it takes work. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be given to you. Um, there's no entitlement here. You have to earn it. And I think now more than ever, that's a challenge for today's athletes, and for young kids, and for young students. And just um, I have a policy where kids must call me if they're not going to be at practice, or they can't text me. It's too easy to hide behind a text. And I remember telling that to a group of boys, and one of them saying, well, what if you answer? I was like, what if I answer? That's the whole point. And I said to them, if you have enough guts to call me and ask me for what you need it is, the odds are that I'm going to say yes. If it's that important to you that you are going to call me and ask me, I'm going to probably say, sounds good to me. But they want to hide behind text. They don't want that social interaction. They want to start, but maybe not earn that starting spot. They want to have it happen instantaneously. And everything else in their life is pretty instantaneous. And being good at something and achieving a goal, it's not instantaneous. It takes work. It takes grit.
Right.
So
Right.
hard.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and why, and from whom?
It's twofold. I think the most significant piece of advice was more watching the living actions of my parents was the most important advice I ever got, just watching how they lived their lives. Secondly was the way they taught me, the choices are very important, and making choices are important. My father used to say, not making a decision is worse than making a bad decision. Make one, make it right, even if it's not the right decision, learn from it, and then it becomes a good decision. And it's really enabled me to make thoughtful choices. Even if they didn't work out, I learned from them and I moved on. So it's really about, you know, making choices that work for you. And if they don't, learning from them and just, moving on. And, as a parent, I'll say this for parents, if any parents are listening with their kids, the best advice I give our young parents at Little Dolphins, they'll say to me, what's the biggest advice you can give? And I say, it's one word. And they're like, really? What's that one word? I'm like, no. Learn to say it, learn when to say it, and learn how to keep it. And they're always like, oh, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, don't use it all the time, but when you do, don't renege on it. Say it, be consistent, and your kids will benefit from it.
I love that. You're such a yes person that,
Sure.
saying no, I think is a big part of being a yes person.
It has an impact.
Right.
It has an impact.
Right.
When I say no, I mean it. I don't say it lightly. And I remember a few years ago, we were in the Hamptons and Sag Harbor, where it's very dark at night. There's no lights. And my son, who was like 26 at the time, came to me saying he was driving to a bar in Amagansett, which is a couple miles away. And I said, no, not a good idea. 26 years old. And he's like, okay, I won't go. That's fine, Mom. And my sister, who had kids who were in the younger 20s, was like, how did you do that? And I said, I don't say no very often, but when I do, they know there's a reason behind it. And the reason was quite selfish. I didn't want to stay up worrying about him driving in the dark after going to a bar.
Right.
And he understood. I never say no. So when I do, he was like, all right, cool. So it does work. Start early.
I love it.
Same with my players. When I say no, they don't revisit it because I don't revisit it.
MJ, what is your ultimate why?
That's a big one. The ultimate why for me is really wanting to be my best self. And the reason I want to be my best self is the why. Because I know that if I am my best self, I positively impact the people around me. And that's really what I want to do. I want to be, whether it's in life or on a court, I just want to be the best version of myself, because I know when I do that, it's impactful. And it's impactful on the people directly around me. It's on the people that they impact, on the people they impact, and it just grows. And, I look at you. When you first came to Crossroads, you came from an environment, very different style than what I was leading at Crossroads. And in the beginning, I thought to myself, oh my God, is this ever going to work? And you know what? You embraced it. You embraced all of it. And you became this amazing coach and this amazing inspirational just person in life. And, you say like, what's my why? You're one of the whys. That's why I do it. So I can watch the people around me learn and grow, whether they're 94, whether they're 6, whether they're 26. And so for me, the why is to want to be my best self so I can have that impact on others. And, just me having a small impact on you is now you having impact on more people. What's better than that? What is better than that? To me, nothing. I know it sounds very simple, but it's why I wake up in the morning. And even, being in quarantine, when you wake up and you go, why? It's Groundhog Day. Today looks like yesterday. Yesterday looks like tomorrow. It's like, whatever, it's all there. But you know what? It's like, pick up the phone, call someone lives alone. Really, there's that why. There's always something positive you can do.
Right.
And that's my why.
I love that. Looking at both pyramids, what spoke loudly to you from both? What would you include that is missing? And if you don't have them in front of you, do you have them?
I have one. I have John Wooden's.
Yeah, there's John Wooden's. And then here's this one, the inspired living. I don't know if you can see it very well.
I have the small version here.
Okay.
Um, no, I think it's very well done. I agree with it. I liked on John Wooden's that he had enthusiasm, because that kind of goes with my fun. But at the same time, if you think about it, if you do all these things and adhere to them, fun is inherent in it. So you don't necessarily need to have that on there. If you have health, family, love, friendship, and faith, odds are you're enjoying your life anyway. And that's
Right.
true meaning of fun.
Right.
Passion. I think you added in, a lot of really great things. It's funny when I was thinking it's interesting you have creativity on there, because I have so many friends, people who are my age, who always complain they're not creative. And I try to explain to them that they are creative. There's no boundaries on creativity. Just because you're not on Etsy doesn't mean you're not creative.
Right.
There's so many ways to be creative. And I think, playing a sport is creative. If you're an athlete, you're creative. I have a good friend who complains how uncreative she is. Now her kids, she can't create for, and I'm like, you're an athlete, you're creative. You know how to create for yourself. You can create. Don't put those boundaries on it. So I think that's incredibly important.
I think we're all here to create, I like that word consumer. It always bothered me, because it's like, we're not here to consume, we're here to create,
Right. No, I 100% agree. Yeah, and be confident, but don't be arrogant. That stuck out to me. And something I've taught my kids, ingrained in them, Kylie and Oliver. It's like, be confident. You're good. You're a good person. You have so much to be confident about.
Yeah.
Just don't be arrogant.
Cool.
Don't be arrogant.
I was inspired to create this pyramid, and talking with a lot of people, I've realized that I think one of the best things that I could help inspire others is for everyone to create their own pyramid. This pyramid of success worked for John and Coach Wooden and his teams, and he obviously had amazing success with it. But, moving forward, that's not the end all be all of pyramids. No. But I think it's really important for everyone to have a destination of where they're trying to head to. And for this project, I think, inspired living is something that we should all try to attain on a daily basis. That's a big reason why I'm doing this project. But I also encourage everyone to figure out what that looks like for them, and make their own pyramid and figure out their own foundation of all these things, and work towards the top on a daily basis. It's like your own compass of like what you're doing.
It's so important. And I think it's even more important the more electronic age that we live in, because, right. For young kids, what I see in preschools is kids don't know how to create for themselves. Everything is created for them.
Right.
And they aren't inspired unless it's, being done for them. They're looking for outside sources to be inspired, and they need to look from within to be inspired. So I think if you create your own pyramid, you are looking for what inspires you from within. And that's so important.
Wow. MJ, this has been amazing. Is there anything else you'd like to say about any of this stuff?
No, I think it's inspiring for me that you're doing this project. It's like,
cool.
I think for some of us, I know this isn't meant to sound the arrogant. It's meant to sound the confident. It is who we are. It's a product of how you've lived your life, and you're young. You still have many more years to go, but I look at all my years, and, hopefully you got to still live and learn and grow. People ask me, why are you still coaching at Crossroads? I'm still at a preschool I started 26 years ago, and I still go there every day. And you know what? If I wasn't living and learning and growing from those two experiences, I wouldn't be doing it. If it wasn't fun, if I wasn't, I wouldn't be doing it. And it's really watching the younger people, the people like you, even the preschoolers, and watching them live these inspired lives, which for me, I take from that. You got to gobble it up. That's one thing. Part of inspired living is knowing what to seize from others, what to soak in. And I think that's something else. You can't just be confident in this. You need to realize, to be inspired and live an inspired life, you need to soak in from others. And I think that's pretty much it.
I love that. MJ, thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been incredible. It's been inspiring. Really appreciate your time and your insights, and you are awesome.
You're the best.
This episode is brought to you by DAF Global. If you're looking to start a podcast, or you have a podcast and you're looking for editing services, hit up my guys Oliver and Garrett at DAF Global. They're awesome. They help me with this podcast, and they take care of all kinds of different services like editing and audio enhancement, and they're great to work with. They're also offering a 10% discount to all Within the Game listeners. So hit my guys up at DAF Global on Instagram, and also on their website, www.dafglobal.co.uk.